Welcome to another interview with the Vocero Hispano. The past few days and the upcoming ones, we're meeting candidates that are running for different positions in this upcoming election that's exactly 2 weeks away from today. Today we have Iván Díaz, who is running for Kent County Commissioner in the 20th District, and he's here to speak about his perspectives and goals if he were to be elected as Commissioner. Thank you so much for being here. We've had you for a couple times already in Spanish, but this time in English, so thank you for giving the opportunity for the community to know you.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mentioned that you're running for the 20th District specifically as Commissioner. Do you know what areas that would specifically cover?
For sure, yeah. So the new 20th District covers portions of the north end of Wyoming, so that Godfrey Lee neighborhood, essentially, all the way west to Lamar Park. It covers portions of the Burton Heights neighborhood, just east of the 131, and then it also has portions of the Roseville Park neighborhood along Cesar Chavez Avenue. So those are the three main neighborhoods that it covers.
Okay, you're mentioning neighborhoods that primarily have a lot of Hispanic people, Hispanic families. And speaking of that, that means that if you were to be elected, you would become the first Hispanic male to be a commissioner in Kent County. What does that representation mean for you?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, the district, the new 20th district is about 53% Latino, if I'm not mistaken. And so it would mean a lot to me, not only to be able to represent the Hispanic community, but also the neighborhoods that I grew up in, essentially, in my time here in Kent County, which are the three neighborhoods that I mentioned. When I was born, we were living in Burton Heights, and then we moved to the Godfrey Lee neighborhood, where I went to school my entire life, essentially, and graduated from. But when I was in middle school, we moved to the Roseville Park neighborhood. So those have been the three neighborhoods that I have grown up in, and it is one of the districts with the biggest populations of minority communities, and so that would be both a privilege and an honor to be able to represent them.
Mm-hmm. And then some may ask, what exactly does a commissioner do? But there's two different ones. There's the city one and there's a Kent County one. So
right.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so the Grand Rapids City Commissioners are in charge with the functions of the city government, the city of Grand Rapids, essentially. And each, Wyoming and Kentwood, they have their own city commissions. The Kent County Commission is in charge of all administrative duties having to do with Kent County services. So that would range everything from the Kent County Sheriff's Department to the parks that are located in Kent County, the Kent County Health Department, providing those services that are, provided by the state but administered through the county, all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you mentioned big departments because it has to do with our health, the way that everything is policing here in Kent County. So right. Those are pretty big departments that you're mentioning. The other thing is that we spoke about the Hispanic community and how they're largely presented there. So what type of support would you be able to bring as a commissioner to that specific community? Right,
so I'd be able to essentially be that point of contact for the communities that I'm representing and any services that they're trying to seek from the Kent County, from Kent County, essentially. Mm-hmm. And that ranges anything from having to apply for benefits to the state, or having to contact the health department for any range of issues, to any contact that's done with the sheriff's department, those kinds of things. I actually had a community member talk to me just today, in fact, about the issues that she's having with her housing, and how her landlord has not provided services to have her unit cleaned because of the mold that's growing in her unit. And I recommended that she reach out to either the city or the county to address those issues. And those would be some of the things that I would be able to do as a county commissioner, along with passing the budget for the Kent County, which could provide all range of services for the population, as well as administering those funds that are being passed down to us either through the state or through the federal government.
And then the other thing I want to point out, just because I'm a Hispanic as well, I feel like just you being bilingual, you could actually help the community who can't kind of communicate that way or don't feel comfortable with those specific departments that you've mentioned. So I think that's a plus as well. Just kind of recognizing the issues that they're going through, but they're not able to communicate it because they probably don't feel comfortable.
Right,
So.
exactly. And, as a first generation United States citizen, I guess, I do have, parents who were migrant workers who had to learn English as a second language. And so for Hispanics and Latinos in general, a lot of people can relate to that, having parents who maybe don't speak English as well, or who had to rely on their kids to do a lot of things around the house, whether it be, managing their finances, to reaching out to the local government for all kinds of services, to talking to their teachers and other professional staff at schools. So yeah, just being able to communicate with people in two languages opens me up to those different possibilities and to the different things that I can provide. And that's without even getting into all of the other languages and customs that are present in our community.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that you would kind of support or propose if you were to become commissioner?
Right. So I think the past couple of years have really opened the eyes for a lot of people as far as some of the things that are needed in our community. And that ranges in anything from, for example, I would be fighting to establish a community center for the Godfrey Lee and the Roosevelt Park and Burton Heights neighborhoods. And that center could provide all kinds of things, anything from, child care services to access to funds or financial help for emergencies, or to get small businesses off the ground. Essentially making sure that, again, all of those state and federal funds that are being passed at the state and federal governments are actually making their way into the 20th district. A lot of those neighborhoods that I will hopefully be representing have been neglected or mismanaged for a long time. They've been forgotten about, essentially. And so I want to make sure that moving forward, nobody in those communities are left behind. And that's everything from making sure that they actually have a house or a home to go to live in, making sure that they have sufficient food, that they have the most basic needs that somebody needs to survive and to thrive. It may not sound like a lot, but again, one of the things that we have learned over the past couple of years, during and after the pandemic, is that there are a lot of needs that are going unaddressed, and that have been going unaddressed for years or decades even. And again, one big idea or one thing that I want to stress is that we're not kind of starting from scratch here. We're not making things up as we go along. We have a lot of examples of things that have been done in Michigan, in other counties, or in counties in other states that we could implement here. And that would be something that I would be trying to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pandemic. I feel like the pandemic kind of shined a light on a lot of those issues that you're mentioning, and they are basic needs, but there's those basic needs that a lot of communities that are minorities can't get their hands on, and they're basic needs. So
right. Exactly.
That's something that has to have a light on it.
Yeah, exactly, addressed. And it's everything from even just our environment. I've been told by the city that there's lead in our water, and to essentially not drink the water that's coming from our faucet. But our family doesn't have the money to change the pipes going to our house. So I know that is relatable for a lot of people. Just down the road, actually, it was announced maybe a week or two ago that Dana Nassau, the state attorney general, is suing a company for pollution, essentially, because they were operating in the Roosevelt Park neighborhood for years, and that company ended up closing down and moving out of state. And it turned out that they were using in their manufacturing process PFAS, or forever chemicals, as they're called. And these are chemicals that do not break down easily in the environment, and that over time build up in the human body and can cause things like cancer and other kinds of diseases. And this is right down the road from my house. And so, if we're having to fight for, again, basic needs like clean drinking water and clean air, and a clean environment, then I personally think that kind of just, again, shines the light on how many things need to be addressed, and just how much we need to catch up on a lot of these issues.
For sure. Those are a lot of great things, and they're good point of views that you have. Just because I kind of live there around the area too, and just because I come from a minority community as well,
Right.
so I think a lot of people could relate with that. And I mentioned that you would become the first Hispanic person to be a commissioner in Kent County. What does that make you, or what difference does that make you from your opponent? Because we know that your opponent is also Hispanic,
Right.
and she's running for the same position and everything. So what would be the difference, or what makes you different from her?
Right. As you mentioned, it would either one of us would be the first Latino or Hispanic on the commission, and this is in the county in our county, about 11% of the population is Hispanic or Latino. As I mentioned earlier, in the 20th specifically, the population of Latinos or Hispanics makes up about 53% of the population. And so while yes, it would be great to have the first Latino or Hispanic on the commission, it's not enough to say because they're Hispanic or Latino, they're gonna do what's best for our community. And I think this is an idea that that needs to be talked about more, that needs to be more widespread, which is the idea that I don't think it matters as much what somebody looks like or what background they have. What matters is their policies, their ideas. What do they want to get done? Because I could be Hispanic or Latino, but if all of my ideas are going to keep our community where it is or set it back even further, then it doesn't really matter that I'm a Hispanic or Latino. And so I would like people to focus on the differences in opinion between people rather than what they look like. Again, I think that I could do a lot as far as pushing our community to be more proud of who we are, of where we come from, of the contributions that we have made to this county, to West Michigan, and that we're going to continue to make. Because as we all know, the Hispanic and Latino population is only going to keep growing in the next couple of decades. And people who run for office, different parties, they know that our votes matter. And so if there's one thing that I want to stress to our community, it is that your votes matter. And as time goes on, they're only going to matter even more so. And that's why it's important that we pay attention, not just to how people look like as far as the people that are running for office, but what their ideas are. And even as a political candidate myself, I'm doing that for people who are running for offices that are not my own. So for people that are running for Grand Rapids City Commission, Grand Rapids School Board, state representative, state senate, Congress. Just because I'm running for office doesn't mean that I'm gonna just check the box next to every Democrat or that I'm not gonna vote for a Republican. Again, what matters is not what people look like, not whether they're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican, but what their ideas are and where they wanna take our county.
Yeah, you mentioned good points. I feel like a lot of us get carried away with looks and just of what is only being promoted out there, but not really in depth of what they really do believe in or what they could really do for our communities. So that's a good point that you bring up. Is there any other comments or issues that you would like to focus on that you would like to let the community know that maybe you support?
Yeah, for sure. So for one would be, if you haven't voted yet, make your plan to vote. We're exactly 2 weeks away from the elections. It's too late to register online, but people can still register up until and including the day of the election at their city clerk's office. People can still send in their absentee votes to vote by mail. People can go and vote at their city clerk's office. They can vote the day of. So it's important that if they haven't yet, that they make that plan to do so. And personally, for me, I keep seeing articles and news stations and whatnot say that the two biggest issues on people's minds at the moment are the economy or inflation and abortion. While some of those issues would be litigated and debated at the state level, I personally would, for one, make sure that, as I've said before, that the county health department is providing services and care to all people, that nobody is having to go through the government to get permission on what they feel should be done in regards to their health. I believe that the government has very little to do with people's personal healthcare decisions, and that's the mission and the idea that I would seek to maintain at the Kent County Health Department. And as far as the economy and inflation, people are hurting. Right? We're at the end of a pandemic that has been making its way through our country for 2-3 years now. And I'm almost 25 years old. I was born in 1997. And in that short time frame, we've gone through 3 or 4 big economic crises in my short lifetime. If I'm not mistaken, the people who are my age, the end of the millennials, Generation Z, are on track to have a lower standard of living compared to our parents and our grandparents. The idea has always been that if you work hard, if you get educated, you can create a better life for yourself. And one thing that has been clear for a lot of people is that is not necessarily the case anymore. And so if we want to make sure that we're creating a country and an economy that works for everybody, we need to create a government that works for everybody. There are a lot of local influences here being made by billionaire families who are seeking to maintain their hold and their control over our political process. And I would hope that over time, not only in the short term, but in the long term, we start to see a bigger movement of regular working class people standing up for their rights and fighting for a better economic future for everybody. And so while yes, the elections are coming up in 2 weeks, and that'll be the end, the culmination of a year, 2 years worth of work, the real work continues after that. And so I would ask all of those people who have voted for me, who are planning to vote for me, to remember that the work doesn't stop on November 8th. We need to keep pushing all of our electeds, and if I'm fortunate enough to become one of those electeds, I would ask people to come and talk to me, to keep pushing me, because I can't do the work that needs to get done without the support of the people. And that means, again, pushing not only myself, but pushing the people running for state rep, for state senate, for Congress, for governor, all up and down the ticket. So I would hope that people keep paying attention even after November 8th.
You bring good points up. You mentioned the Kent County Health Department. That's something that I've been kind of emphasizing throughout all of these other interviews with other candidates, and it's that we have that Proposal 3 that mentions abortion and all of that, but it not only influences abortion, it also influences the other medical care that has to do with like pregnancy or fertility
reproductive
care.
rights,
yes.
Everything. Yeah.
So it's a good point that you bring that up. And then there's just different types of controls. There's that governmental control, and then there's whatever you decide to do. So I guess that the Kent County Health Department would be something that would kind of be around that situation as well.
Exactly. It would have a big role to play. And as a universal healthcare advocate, I think that one day when we establish a universal healthcare system, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later, local health departments are going to have an even bigger role to play. And so over the next few years, I definitely plan to keep pushing the envelope of pushing our electeds to establish a universal healthcare system, whether we need to start here in Michigan first or whether we jump straight to a national one. But again, the fact is that we need more healthcare in this system, not less. And we need to allow and empower people to make the decisions that are best for themselves and their families, while making sure that they, have the funds and the support to do so.
Yeah. The other last issue I wanted to mention is that you were telling us about a neighbor that you met, about her living situation.
Right.
And right now I was just thinking about how winter is coming up and there's a lot of homelessness going on in the city, this county overall. Right. As a commissioner, how or what could you do to kind of combat that? Right.
So, I was born and raised in Kent County. I remember being a kid and driving, with my family around the city and seeing homeless people. And in my opinion, the problem has only gotten worse over the last few years, over the last 2 decades, really. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, we have examples of other counties what their policies have been, what their ideas have been. I can't remember which county it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a county here in Michigan. It may have been Muskegon County, where they essentially bought up old motels and fixed them up, refurbished them, and then allowed their unhoused or homeless population to live in those motels while they got their feet down and while they started turning their lives around. We just recently saw that there was an approval made for a tiny home community to be created across from Mel Trotter Ministries over on Division. So that's a great idea, I think, in the long term, to provide homes for the unhoused community, for them to again start coming back into society, and to one day even have a home of their own that they can buy and sell if they want to. But that's in the long term, right? They just barely established the permits and whatnot for that. It's at least a couple of years down the road. There was a study that was commissioned in 2020 where it was said that the county, Grand Rapids in general, needs over 5,000 new housing units by 2025. So it was around 5,500 new housing units. That study was released in 2020. We're at the end of 2022, and at the last count, or at least the last numbers that I saw, we've created less than 2,000 of those units. So we're falling behind, further and further behind each month. We have plenty of land in the county that we can use to house people. We have old motels that we can use. We have millions of dollars from the federal government that we can use to turn the situation around. And so I will be doing, again, everything in my power to make sure that that money is flowing into the 20th district, but really throughout the entire county, so that we're finally addressing these issues that have only been getting worse for years now. Okay.
Thank you so much for letting us know what you think, what your perspectives are, and what your goals are. I think those are all great ideas. They impact a big minority community that you cover in that specific district. So thank you for being here with us.
For sure. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you guys want to know more information about Ivan, you can visit his Facebook page. It's Iván Díaz for Kent County Commissioner. You can visit his website at ivanforkent.com. And is it okay if I give your contact information?
Yes, for sure.
It's ivandiaz4office@gmail.com. And if you want to know if you are registered to vote, you can visit michigan.gov/vote or grandrapidsmi.gov/election. For more interviews in English and Spanish, you can visit our Facebook page, El Vocero Hispano, our YouTube page, El Vocero Hispano TV, and our website, elvocerous.com.